Gyms are supposed to be safe places. Bright lights, music playing, people working hard, sweating, minding their own business. On the surface, it feels like one of the last places where something bad could happen. Because really, how could it? You're surrounded by cameras, by staff, by other people just trying to get through their workout. You're not thinking about danger. You're thinking about the treadmill, the weights, maybe how long you've got left before you go home. But when you stop and really think about it, the picture changes. When the music cuts out and the clatter of machines fades away, a gym is just a big empty building. Long rows of mirrors. Locker rooms where every little sound echoes. Showers tucked away behind doors. Hallways that feel way too quiet. Suddenly, it doesn't feel so safe anymore. And that's the thing about places we think are safe. They make us drop our guard. They make us forget that danger doesn't always hide in the dark. Sometimes it hides right in plain sight. Because the truth is, not everyone in a gym is there to work out. Some people are watching. Some are following. And some are there for reasons you probably don't even want to imagine. Tonight, I'm going to share 3 disturbing, true gym horror stories. Stories of regular people who thought they were walking into just another workout, but ended up facing something they'll never forget. Before we begin, a quick reminder. If you love hearing real horror stories, the kind that make you double-check your surroundings, then hit subscribe. It helps more than you know, and it makes sure you don't miss what's coming next. And if you're already subscribed, thank you. You're the reason I can keep doing this. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever been in the gym late at night? Maybe only a couple of people inside, maybe just you. The machines humming quietly. The mirrors reflecting back empty rows of treadmills. That strange feeling in the locker room when your own footsteps echo just a little too loudly. Have you ever felt, even for a second, like someone else might be there watching? Most of us shake it off. We tell ourselves we're imagining things. But for the people in these stories, that uneasy feeling became something very real. Something they couldn't just ignore. So get comfortable, put on your headphones and turn the lights down. Because these are 3 disturbing, true gym horror stories that I was in college when this happened. My schedule was brutal, classes during the day, work shifts in the evening, which meant the only time I could hit the gym was late at night. Midnight, sometimes even later. It was a 24-hour place, so I figured it was perfect. Empty treadmills, no waiting for machines, no crowds. At first, it felt like the best decision ever. Walking in past midnight, the building would be nearly silent except for a couple of people scattered around. Sometimes I'd get the whole floor to myself, which felt kind of peaceful. But after a while, I started noticing something off. It always happened in the locker room. Most nights, it was empty. But every now and then, there was this man. I can still picture him. He didn't look like he belonged. He wasn't dressed to work out, not really. Just old sweats, sometimes a hoodie. And the strange thing was, I never actually saw him exercising. Never on a treadmill. Never lifting weights. Not even stretching. He was just there, sitting, watching, sometimes mumbling to himself. First, I brushed it off. It's a public gym, right? People are weird. Maybe he had his own routine, maybe he came in at odd times. But something about the way he'd just sit there, it got under my skin. One night, I finished up on the treadmill around 1:30 in the morning. I headed into the locker room, the place echoing with every step I took. The air smelled faintly of chlorine from the showers, mixed with that metallic tang of old gym equipment. And there he was, sitting on the bench, hunched forward, eyes locked on the floor. He didn't move when I walked past, didn't even blink, just sat there, muttering under his breath. I kept my head down, telling myself not to overthink it. But you know that feeling when the hairs on the back of your neck stand up? That instinct that you're being watched? I felt it every time he was there. Sound. Water dripping. Echo of footsteps. Couple of weeks went by like this. Sometimes he wasn't there. Sometimes he was. Always the same routine, sitting, muttering, staring. I told myself it was harmless. Creepy, sure, but harmless. Until the night it wasn't. I just finished a workout and hit the showers. The place was quiet, just the faint sound of water running. When I came back to my locker, towel over my shoulder, my stomach dropped. The door to my locker was hanging wide open, and my wallet was gone. My heart started pounding. I whipped around and scanned the room, and there he was, all the way at the far end of the row, sitting perfectly still, just staring at me. His eyes locked on mine, unblinking. I froze. For a second, I couldn't even move. My mind was racing. Do I confront him? Do I run to the front desk? Do I just act like nothing happened? I finally managed to stammer out something like, "Hey, did you see anyone here?" But he didn't answer. He just sat there, watching. I grabbed my bag, heart in my throat, and practically bolted to the front desk. I told the staff what happened, and they immediately called the police. But by the time officers showed up, the man was gone. Just vanished. The cops took my statement, told me to cancel my cards, all the usual stuff. But what really scared me wasn't the stolen wallet. It was the way he looked at me, like he knew me, like he'd been waiting. I didn't sleep much that night. Every creak outside my apartment made me jump. But the next few days passed without incident. I convinced myself it was over, until one night walking home after a late shift. It was just past 2 in the morning. The streets quiet, my backpack heavy with textbooks. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. At first, I thought nothing of it. It's a city, people walk late at night all the time. But then the steps matched mine. Every turn I made, every crosswalk, they followed. I risked a glance over my shoulder, and my blood ran cold. It was him, the man from the locker room. He wasn't even pretending to hide. He just walked behind me, his face in shadow, his eyes locked on me the same way they had been in the gym. I sped up. So did he. I crossed the street. He crossed too. I could feel panic bubbling in my chest. I didn't want to lead him to my apartment, so I ducked into a convenience store. The cashier gave me a strange look as I stood there, pretending to browse, heart pounding out of my chest. A few minutes later, I peered out the window, and he was gone. I filed another police report the next day. This time, they took it more seriously. Turns out, this guy had a record. He'd been banned from several gyms in the area for theft, harassment, even following people home. The officers assured me they'd keep an eye out. But honestly, that didn't help me sleep any better. Because here's the thought that still makes my skin crawl even now. He knew where I lived. He'd followed me right to my street. If I hadn't ducked into that store, I don't even want to think about what could have happened. Sound. Faint echoing footsteps, then silence. And that's when it hit me. I used to think the gym was one of the safest places I could be. But after that night, I never looked at it the same way again. So the next time you're in the locker room, and you feel like someone's watching you, maybe you're not just being paranoid. She had just started a new fitness routine. A demanding job kept her at a desk most of the day, and like so many of us, she wanted a change. More energy, more confidence, something to focus on. Joining the gym felt like the perfect step, but to really commit, she decided to hire a trainer. At first, it felt like the right move. The trainer the gym paired her with was friendly, confident, and seemed to know what he was doing. He was maybe in his 30s, tall, fit, the kind of guy you'd expect to see working in a gym. Their first few sessions were exactly what she wanted: professional, challenging, structured. He helped her with form, motivated her when she wanted to quit, and seemed invested in her progress. But after a while, she started noticing little things. The first time, she brushed it off as nothing. He corrected her form, but his hands lingered just a little too long. Not enough to call it outright inappropriate, but enough to make her uncomfortable. Another time, while she was doing stretches, he crouched beside her and whispered, "You've got really good flexibility." It was said casually, but it didn't feel professional. She tried to convince herself she was overthinking it. This was just part of training, right? Trainers push boundaries, they encourage, they stay close to spot you. That's their job. But then came the questions. Personal ones. Do you live nearby? Do you live alone? What do you do when you're not at the gym? She laughed them off, gave vague answers, and shifted the conversation back to workouts. Still, she felt that uneasy knot forming in her stomach every time he asked. Sound. Faint weight clinks, then silence. The worst part was when she realized she'd seen him outside the gym. Not by accident, not in passing. She caught him parked near her building one night, just sitting in his car. Another time, when she was grocery shopping, she saw him at the end of the aisle. He smiled, waved like it was coincidence. But the grocery store wasn't even close to the gym. She told herself she was being paranoid. Maybe he lived nearby. Maybe it really was coincidence. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. One night, after finishing a late shift at work, she decided to stop by the gym. It was close to closing time, around 10:30, and she figured a quick workout would help her unwind. The place was almost empty. Just a couple of people finishing up on machines, and a staff member at the desk. She noticed his car in the lot when she walked in. Her trainer. That struck her as odd, since she knew his shift had ended hours earlier. But she didn't think much of it. Until later, she put her headphones in, stretched, started her routine. The quiet hum of the machines filled the air. Then, from the corner of her eye, she saw him, standing by the weight racks, not training anyone, not working out, just standing there, watching her. Her chest tightened. Maybe he was waiting for someone. Maybe it was nothing. She kept moving, tried to act normal. But every time she glanced up, his eyes were on her. Eventually, the other gym members left. One by one, they walked out the door until it was just her and him. The staff member at the front had gone into the back office. And that's when he moved. Sound. Buzzing lights grow louder, faint breathing. He walked over, slow, deliberate, and followed her into the women's stretching area. She pulled out her headphones, heart pounding, and turned toward him. "Didn't think you'd be here this late," he said. His tone wasn't casual. It wasn't friendly. It was low, sharp, with a hint of something she couldn't quite name. She laughed nervously, said she was just finishing up, hoping to defuse whatever this was. But then he stepped closer, cutting off her path to the exit. His body angled, boxing her in. Her heart was racing now, pounding in her ears. She felt the weight of the mirrors reflecting them, the silence pressing down. His breathing was slow, steady. Hers was quick, panicked. For a split second, she froze. Fear rooted her to the spot. And then she had an idea. She reached for her phone, pressed it to her ear, and pretended to answer a call. She raised her voice just enough to carry. "Hey, yeah, I'm just at the gym. I'll be out front in a minute." She forced a laugh, forced her eyes to light up like she was relieved someone was waiting for her. And then she moved, fast. She ducked past him before he could react, walking quickly. Not running, but quick enough to show she had somewhere to be. Her phone was still at her ear as she walked past the front desk, giving the staff member a wide-eyed look as she mouthed, "Help!" He understood instantly. She heard his voice call out, casual but firm, "Hey man, can I talk to you for a second?" She didn't wait to see what happened next. She pushed through the doors, got to her car, locked it, and drove off with her hands shaking on the wheel. Later, when she calmed down enough to talk, she called the gym manager. And what she found out chilled her even more. This wasn't the first time. The trainer had been reported before by other women. Complaints about following them, making inappropriate comments, crossing boundaries. And worse, the manager admitted he'd been fired from another gym for the same thing. They'd hired him without fully checking his record. She never went back. Even with the police involved, even with him gone from that gym, she couldn't shake the thought. How many others had brushed off the same behavior, thinking they were overreacting? How many didn't get the chance to walk away? Sound. Heartbeat slows, silence. It made her realize something most of us don't want to think about. The person you're supposed to trust, the one guiding you through your workout, encouraging you, teaching you, can also be the one you need to fear the most. And that thought stayed with her long after she left the gym behind. He worked odd shifts. Nights, weekends, the kind of schedule that leaves you out of sync with everyone else. And for him, the gym became a kind of escape. It was open 24 hours, and that meant he could slip in at 3 in the morning, when the world outside was quiet and the place was nearly empty. He liked it that way. No crowds, no waiting for machines, no chatter. Just the quiet rhythm of his own workout. The building felt almost like it belonged to him alone. But one night, that quiet turned into something else. Something he still can't explain. It was a Tuesday, 3:04 a.m. He swiped his card, walked through the glass doors, and stepped into silence. Even the front desk was empty, just a clipboard sitting where the staff usually stood. That wasn't unusual this late. The staff often cleaned in the back or stepped away. He headed straight for the treadmill, warmed up, and then moved into free weights. Everything felt routine. The same buzzing of the lights, the faint smell of disinfectant, the hum of the air conditioning. But halfway through his set, he noticed something strange. There was someone else in the room. A man standing over by the free weights rack. Tall, thin, wearing a dark hoodie with the hood pulled up. His face was hard to see in the reflection of the mirrors, but his posture was off. He wasn't lifting weights. He wasn't stretching. He was just standing there. At first, he thought maybe the guy had just walked in and he hadn't noticed. That happens sometimes. You get focused on your workout and tune out the rest of the world. But then he realized something unsettling. He hadn't heard the door open. The entry doors made a loud beep every time someone scanned in, followed by a distinct click. He'd been there long enough to know the sound, but he hadn't heard it. Not once since he walked in. He tried to ignore it, tried to tell himself the man had been there all along and he just hadn't looked up. He finished his set, wiped down the bench and glanced in the mirror again. The man was closer. Sound. Faint metal clanging in the distance. Not much, maybe a few feet, but enough that it made his stomach drop. He turned his head quickly, but when he looked back, the man hadn't moved. Still standing, still facing him. He swallowed hard, forced himself to keep going. He picked up another set of weights, sat down and tried to focus. But every time his eyes flicked toward the mirror, he could swear the man was just a little bit nearer. Like each time he looked away, the distance between them closed. Minutes dragged by. His workout, usually a relief, now felt like a trap. The gym was too quiet, too empty. The hum of the lights almost deafening. Then the lights flickered. Just for a second, a buzz, a dimming, then a return to brightness. But in that moment, he swore he saw the man's reflection shift. Not just closer, right behind him. He spun around. No one. The space behind him was empty. His pulse was hammering now. Sweat broke out across his back that had nothing to do with exercise. He set his weights down, tried to calm his breathing. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe he was imagining things. He worked odd shifts. His mind played tricks. But then he heard it. Footsteps. Sound. Echoing footsteps, slightly offbeat from his own. Slow, steady, not matching his own movement. He froze, every muscle in his body tense. The sound echoed faintly through the room, like someone walking just a few feet away. He turned, scanning the rows of machines. Empty. That was it. He decided he was done for the night. Enough was enough. He grabbed his towel, his water bottle, and headed toward the locker room. The door wouldn't open. He swiped his card again, yanked the handle. Nothing. The lock stuck like it had jammed. He could feel his panic spiking, his breaths coming too fast. He turned back toward the gym floor, and that's when he saw it. In the mirrors, across the room, the man was standing directly in the center of the free weights section. Perfectly still. Facing him. Sound. Fluorescent buzz grows louder. Faint breathing. He slammed his shoulder against the door, hard, once, twice, and finally it gave. He stumbled inside the locker room, the sound of water dripping echoing around him. He grabbed his bag, barely bothering to change, and bolted for the exit. When he finally pushed through the main doors into the night air, he let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He turned toward his car, heart still racing, sweat dripping down his forehead. But something made him glance back. Through the wide gym windows, across the dark room, the man was standing at the glass. Face pressed close, eyes locked on him. He fumbled his keys, scrambled into his car, and sped off. The next day, still shaken, he went back during daylight hours. He told the staff what happened, describing the man in detail. The manager gave him a confused look, then pulled up the security footage. And that's when his stomach dropped again. On the recording, you could see him, walking in, doing his sets, moving around the floor, but there was no one else. No dark hoodie. No man in the mirrors. No one following him. The cameras showed him working out completely alone. He never went back to the gym at night again. Sound. Echo of footsteps fading into silence. And to this day, he still wonders what he saw that night. A hallucination from lack of sleep? A trick of the mirrors? Or something else entirely? Because when you're alone in a gym at 3 in the morning, you can never really be sure who or what is watching you. Narrator low steady. Gyms are supposed to feel safe. They're supposed to be places filled with energy, with music, with people chasing progress side by side. Bright lights, familiar faces, the rhythm of routine. But when you really think about it, gyms are just big empty rooms. Rooms full of strangers. And the truth is, you never really know why someone else is there. The young woman who thought her trainer was just helping her improve her form, until she realized he'd been watching her when she wasn't looking. The night owl who thought the silence of 3 a.m. was comforting, until he realized he wasn't as alone as he thought. The figure in the mirror that shouldn't have been there at all. We tell ourselves these places are safe because they feel familiar, because they're part of our routine. But danger doesn't always come from the shadows outside. Sometimes, it's already inside, blending in. Maybe that's what makes these stories so unsettling. They didn't happen in abandoned houses or remote forests, or on back roads in the middle of nowhere. They happened in places most of us go every week. Somewhere you feel comfortable enough to leave your phone in your locker, your earbuds in your ears, your guard lowered. And maybe you've felt it before too, that subtle unease when someone's been on the treadmill behind you just a little too long. The odd feeling when you realize the same person always shows up at the exact time you do. Or that moment in the locker room when the silence feels heavier than it should. You brush it off. You tell yourself you're overthinking, because who would ever expect danger in a place like this? But these stories remind us, safety is an illusion. Next time you're wiping down a machine, running those last 10 minutes on the treadmill, or heading toward the locker room after hours, pause for just a second. Listen, pay attention, because the scariest part of all this is that not everyone in the gym is there to work out. Sound. A single weight dropping, echoing. If these stories made you think twice, if they made you feel that little chill at the back of your neck, don't forget. There are more. More true stories of the strange, the dangerous, and the unexplainable. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, join us, and never miss the next time we step into the dark corners of everyday life. Because sometimes, the scariest places aren't the ones you expect. Sometimes, they're the ones you thought were safe.